back. Welcome everybody to the show. Hello everyone. We are Beaver Politics. We do political shows every single evening of the week. They're all a little bit different. On Monday we do Indigenous nights. On Tuesday I host News Hour where we just go over everything. On Wednesday we do Generation Next, where we talk about humanity at large and trends that are happening in culture. And then today we do this open discourse, open panel, where we're just going to talk it out with each other, talk about what's been going on in current events, and just let everybody come up and share their opinion. And then on Friday nights, we do something called Politic Talk, which is more of a debate style, where we take nice and friendly and respectful opposition to talk to. So that's Beaver Politics in a nutshell. Want to welcome everybody to the show. If you want to come up, just please request. We'll try to get as many people up as possible. Please be respectful. If you're not respectful, I will kick you. Okay. And with that being said, let's get back to what we were chatting about. So what's your guys' opinion on that, right? At the end of the day, whether he did it or not, whether he meant it or not, what really matters is what impact did it have? And also, none of the mainstream media held him accountable for it. Nobody wanted to put that word in their headlines, right? All the words that we saw was weird hand gesture. Nobody called it out.
CBC was the best one for calling it out. Does anyone agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, look at the headline right now.
Did I hear earlier that CBC has been banned in the U.S. now?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I said, did I hear that right earlier today? I was listening to another live, and they were saying that Trump banned CBC in the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. All I know is I watched it on Canadian broadcast.
Yeah.
And they actually held a stance against it.
Yeah.
There was a reporter, or oh god, I can't remember, state governor, I think, and it was in one of the states. I can't remember. I have the video. I'll have to send it to you, leftist or frontline. She had wrote a letter to Donald Trump saying that the world saw what we saw. The world knows what we know. How dare you disrespect my grandfather by doing this? It was racist, and all the hate groups started coming out after that. And the fact that they did it on Martin Luther King Day is appalling.
Yeah.
And did you guys see that he did not sign the executive order when it came onto his desk about, giving honor and respect for Martin Luther King Day?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reporters caught it at the very end, right? And then all of a sudden cut out because he didn't sign it.
Yeah, he was lip reading.
Hello, everyone. I'm 46 from Canada. I'm Cree. I also seen that and I was watching some other lives. People talk about it. I was on a live. Oh, hello. How's it going? Did you hear the news about Leonard Peltier? What are your thoughts on it?
Yes. Oh, we have to stay on topic here.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to stay on topic. That's awesome, though. Back to the topic. I was so disappointed in my mom's reserves chief. He was saying, he was downplaying the whole thing. And I said, the Confederacy should write a letter condemning what he did, because he's backing Danielle Smith and Pierre Poilievre, and he's endorsed them. And he goes, why? And I said, well, did you not see what he did? And he was downplaying it. And he said, I work with Danielle Smith. And I was like, oh, no. And he said, we wouldn't have the stuff we have, he said, if it wasn't for Danielle Smith. And I was like, no, you don't realize what she's doing up north and to the rest of the province. Maybe here in your reserve, it's okay because you guys are very urban. You guys are literally bordering a city, and it's to your guys' benefit to work with her. But the rest of the province, the rural reserves, are suffering, and the towns, And he said, I know he said that depends on how you look at it. And I said, she's stepping on the rights up north, you know that, right? And he goes, no. He said, unless you guys are living in teepees, he said, and going back to living off the land, he goes he said, it's all, what was the word he used? It's all relative. And I was like, well, living off the land can mean many things. I said, some of us still do trap and hunt and fish and make a living that way. And he goes, oh, I didn't know that. And that's how urbanized this chief is. There's no hunting or fishing anything on his reserve, and he gets surrounded by a city, practically. And like he's the whole Elon Musk thing just goes right over his head. I was so incredibly disappointed.
So that timer for half an hour.
All right, 30 minutes. Starting now.
Now,
Yeah, I was so disappointed.
to the person in the comments saying that I don't like Martin Luther King. I'm a very big proponent of Martin Luther King's ideas. I think he was an amazing person. And calling me a leftist is just being ignorant. Sorry.
Can I say one thing quick, please? You know, people can do lives however they want to do, but just because I'm hosting this live, I'm just going to ask everybody, honestly, don't interact with conservatives in the comments. Let them talk. Let them say whatever. If anything gets out of hand, I'll mute them. If it's super disrespectful, but don't give them energy. Don't. There's no point. There's literally no point. When people say rude things or they go in there and they're like, "Oh, Trump's the best president," they're just trying to rally us. Like they're just trying to get, emotions out of us. So like let's just ignore them. At the end of the day, the thing that they hate the most is to be ignored, right? Because when you're a troll, the only the only thing you want to get out of it is to bother other people. So by us responding to them, we're showing them that they're bothering us. And I think the best way to go about it is to just completely ignore. If it's something really outrageous, by all means, but just us on the panel, let's just focus on having a discussion between us. We can look at our friends down in the comments. But if somebody says something that's just like really rude or, bigoted or homophobic or sexist or anything like that, just leave it. Just leave it. There's no point. Also, I just really wanted to quickly say, please, please, please tap, 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 get those likes up, just so that this can be distributed out to more people. Also, sharing is caring. So by all means, share the live with more people. We are trying to reach this gift goal over there in the side. So by all means, if you feel inclined to give us some gifts, that's also awesome. But I forgot that, as a host, I need to make sure I'm saying these things once in a while. All right,
Yeah,
back to the conversation.
So
Take it away.
Is it like don't feed the gremlins after midnight and don't water them? Gotcha.
Very much so, yeah, very much so. We want to take that power away from them, so the topic stays on topic here on the show. But speaking of getting it back on topic here, Real Native, if just one piece of advice when you are speaking, make sure that you stay pointed at the phone because you were fading in and out a little bit, and it was getting a little hard to hear you.
Bad habit of straightening my arm and moving the phone away from my mouth. It's a bad habit.
Yeah.
We need to get you an earbud.
What I want to mention about that
Good idea.
is that overall brainwashing that we're seeing, it's not always brainwashing because a lot of these people see some sort of advantage with moving to that side. And we've got to realize, and I talk about it always, that there are a certain percentage of our population that see the rest of us as prey. And we have to get that understanding in our heads that if the opportunity opens up for them to take advantage of others, they will. And that is why there is going to be a hardline core group that is always going to side with Trump and the Republicans and the Conservatives here in Canada. Now, Angela, you're in the box there. Can we have something from you?
Yes, I'm trying. Oh, my voice works now. Sorry. So, I just want to say one thing. I'm an advocate. I'm also have a son on the spectrum. So I understand, right? What Elon did, sorry, was not acceptable. And there's no excuse at all. Being on the spectrum is not an excuse, first of all. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And we're talking about the Republicans. Is this what we're talking about now, the Republicans?
Well, the
Or
discussion is
anything, or
mostly
anything.
around tariffs and this viewpoint of why are people siding with what to the rest of us looks as a real problem for the majority of the population.
Well, here's the situation. The tariffs will be coming. He's pretty edible. And he said he's going to do it. He will do it. But we have a team. We have a federal team that's working on it, right? And the one thing they said to us is that we should not get ourselves stressed. We shouldn't physically or mentally get ourselves stressed. Prepare ourselves because we need to be prepared, right? But we went through this before with Trump. Remember the first time? We retaliated and we won. So there's a team, a federal team that's put together, and they're very well aware of how to deal with Trump. So we have to kind of not make ourselves so stressed from this, because we get stressed from this, it's just going to make us mentally and physically ill. And I notice a lot of people are doing that right now. We need to be prepared, yes, because we were last time. But
This isn't last time, though. That's the problem. This isn't last time. This is not the first 4 years of Trump's presidency.
No.
This is a completely different thing altogether. There is no checks and balances. There is no one to stop him.
Well, I agree with that, though. I agree with that. I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but I'm saying is we need to be prepared, right? We need to be prepared for what's going to happen potentially February the 1st. And remember, this is his last term, so he doesn't care what he's going to do.
And that's exactly the problem, is they're going to set it up that him or his ilk will be there in 4 years in one way, shape, or form. I mean, they're already talking, someone, I guess, is forwarding legislation to give him the possibility of a third term. Not that I think his Mac eating arse is going to make it another 4 years, considering the stress that he's under, but they are setting this up. He wasn't kidding. It wasn't a throwaway line. It wasn't a joke when he said that just vote for me this time and you won't have to worry about voting again.
Oh, I believe that 100%.
Yeah, a
Now,
lot of people.
I just want to, Kai, you haven't had a chance to say too much. So, Kai, can you throw in your 2 cents here?
Yeah, so we're talking about tariffs, right?
Yep.
So obviously, as Angela said, this did happen in 2016, especially with tariffs on, I believe it was lumber specifically, and maybe a few other things, and obviously the administration and the way that they're going to be imposing these tariffs and the lack of guardrails is different. But we have to remember that the U.S. has a trade deficit with us, so if we can leverage the proper targeted tariffs, then we can come out of this victorious or whatever you want to call it. They'll find out soon enough that their gas prices will spike. They'll find out that the cost of wood is going to be going up, and they won't be able to build their houses, or they won't be able to use like any kind of thing without having that gigantic price increase. And a lot of Republicans, uh, due due to the erosion of the education system in America, especially now, with Trump trying to demolish the Department of Education, more people will be falling for this, thinking that the tariffs, thinking that they will not be paying the tariffs when they actually will be.
Yep.
Can we mute some of the comments? They're getting really gross.
So, which was it, an MP or was it Doug Ford that was saying
Uh,
we supply? He was saying, Mr. Trump, do you really want to do this? We supply you guys with 60% of your oil. We can
Yeah,
turn the
that.
taps off if you want.
Yeah, that.
And he said,
That was Doug.
we supply electricity to the northeast portion of the United States. If we turn that off, there goes the power to that section of the country. Are you sure you want to do this? And he kept making point after point, and then after each one, he'd say, are you sure you want to do this? So many points made, and he's kept asking, are you sure you want to go through with these tariffs?
Yeah, no, that was Doug.
It,
That
it
was
was
Doug.
it. I loved it.
We just
Yeah,
have to
no,
keep in
like,
mind, though, that in order for this strategy to work, they need every single premier on board. And right now, we have one premier who is choosing to not get on board with this plan. And
because
that
of
premier
because
also holds the keys to the oil and gas in Canada.
yep.
and that's what she's planning on.
Didn't
Because
she learn
And
today or
that's why
yesterday?
they should have taken it away from her.
yeah,
Didn't
they
she
should call
learn
him.
today or
That's why
yesterday from the reaction that she lost? She didn't get any points from
she
Trump.
doesn't care. It's the thing. If anybody from eh, anybody from Alberta knows that Daniel Smith doesn't care about anybody but Daniel Smith by now. Like, if you're from
Check
Alberta,
your
you
messages,
know.
native.
Danielle Smith wants to place herself in the billionaire gang. That's what
Yep.
it's all about. That's why she went down there with Kevin O'Leary and Jordan Peterson.
But it
Absolutely.
didn't work.
It didn't
It
Absolutely.
wasn't
work, but
going
she
to
doesn't
work.
care. She doesn't care because she doesn't want to make him angry. Because she
Hang
thinks
on.
that somehow, some way, she will get something out of it.
Oh, no. I will disagree. Absolutely, it did work. Because the propaganda machine for the UCP party has done nothing but splash the propaganda. Look at Danielle Smith down there, fighting for Albertans with Trump and trying to, do better for Albertans. So I would disagree. Yes, fundamentally, the tariffs are probably still going to come in. However, as far as a propaganda tool, that trip down there did absolutely everything that it was supposed to.
Yes, but Danielle
Let's hear
Smith.
from. I was
But
going to say we have one
you know,
person that came up on the panel that hasn't chatted yet. I just wanted to say hi, Eric. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking, just for live purposes?
I'm 43.
Perfect. Good to go. Please share what
So,
what are your thoughts?
yeah, with everything that's going on with Trump, like I said, one thing that's been surprising is Pierre Poilievre's been surprisingly quiet about this whole tariff situation. That guy can never keep his mouth shut. But yet, when it comes to tariffs and everything that's going on south of the border, he's not been saying too much. It doesn't give a lot of faith that he's going to act on our best interest if he does somehow come into power. So, yeah, so that's kind of scary too. Like, he does not seem to be standing up for Canadians. Like, even a Doug Ford, as much as I'm not a Doug Ford fan, but you know what? At least he's standing up for Canadians, and he's saying we're not gonna take your BS, and we're gonna fight back. And I don't get that from Poilievre at all.
Have you guys noticed how uncertain he's been looking lately? Like nothing, he cannot answer a single straight question. The dude has no
100%.
straight answer, and he
oh
looks
yes,
nervous. He looks nervous and uncertain. Like even in what he was asked the other day about, like, so Trump is now, basically banning any kind of law that would give proper rights to transgender people. Are you going to do the same thing? And he's like, I don't know. I only know of two genders. Like, do you know of any other gender? And then the
Yeah.
journalist was trying to say, like, well, yes, these other genders are a thing. What's your take on that? And he's like, well, I don't know of any other gender. Can you tell me? Just kept repeating himself. And then at the end, he's like, oh, I think Canada should just like stay out of people's business. Who cares, right? So he did not give it an answer. He tried to say two things that both parties would like. So he tried to make his supporters happy by saying like, "Oh, I don't recognize any other gender." But then at the same time, he knows that people are going to be against that. So for those people, he said, "Oh, well, Canada should just stay out of everybody's business." Like he's trying to do what he always does. He panders to anybody he can pander to, the same way that he did with immigration. Like this guy does not have any solid, stable plan, and it's becoming more and more and more evident. I said my piece. Go ahead.
People who live in Ontario.
Wow.
Okay, I live in Ontario.
Yep.
I 100% agree with you. He's all over the board. Whatever opportunity he can grab for votes. Like his $200 check. Vote for me, I'm giving you $200.
Angela, you'll go right after.
Please, what is that? And he's calling an early election. Why? Because if someone else gets in before him and has a few months of terrible times, he's not going to be voted back in. He thinks Ontario is going to have voter apathy again, but we will not. We have woken up. We know what we want. We know where we want to go, and it's not the Doug Ford way. And I'm sorry if I offended anybody.
No, we're all on the
Angela?
same way.
I love what she said. I live in Ontario too, and I 100% agree. So the election is going to be called next Wednesday.
Yeah, 29.
Yeah, it's going to be called on the 29th of January.
Sorry, go ahead, Angela. I don't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, no, sorry. We know that the RCMP investigation, that will be dropped once the campaign starts. So that's a deliberate thing that he's doing. He says it's a mandate, but what mandate do we need? Think about it. He already has a mandate. That's an excuse, right?
Guys, I just want to throw this out there in a little bit of defense of Pierre Poilievre. He's a little bit
Sorry, that just
distracted.
sounded funny.
It really did. I was shocked.
Guys,
Remember when I came here, Radical?
Guys, he was distracted. You don't get those 24-inch pythons without putting a lot of time in the gym. That's why
Oh my
he's
God.
distracted, and that's why
I
you
beg to
can't hear him. Because
I beg to differ.
every time he swings those massive pipes, he's blocking his voice box. So that's the problem here.
The pipes are more crooked than his fucking arm. I'm sorry.
Right on,
I-
Mr.
I beg-
Radical.
Oh my
I beg to differ.
Oh, that was so good.
My twin took steroids. My twin took steroids, and he was as big as a house inside of a year. So
Yep.
yeah, it can be done.
That's so true.
Of course, there are side effects. There are side effects. You know, all of a
Just someone
sudden,
please shrunk a
you know, all of
potato?
a sudden, you don't have a pair of something, you know, and you start bending to guys like Trump, you know.
Let's say hi to the Hatter that just popped on here.
Potter, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I have a very quick question I wanted to ask. So when I stepped into the live, Radical, you were saying that Danielle Smith going to Mar-a-Lago was doing the right thing for Connect. So why, when she does it, she's doing the right thing, but when Trudeau did it first, y'all called him weak when he tried to do diplomacy?
We're not against him.
We weren't saying she was doing the right thing. We were all saying.
When I stepped in, Radical said that she was doing the right thing. That's what I thought I
No,
heard.
that's
why
what
I was
she
asking.
said.
Okay,
He was quoting what she had said.
Because
That's
there
all.
are some people that say what she's
No,
doing
no,
is great.
you're good.
But when Trudeau
Patterns
did
are
it,
good.
he's weak.
No.
So I'm just trying to understand how
No,
that.
it was a
No, we were
misunderstanding.
all saying how she's basically, you know, just going to try to get something for herself and not care about the rest of Canada. and you walked in when we were talking about how pretty much all the premiers are doing the right thing except for her, and this Team Canada plan won't work unless she's part of it, but she doesn't want to be part of it, so it's making all of us freak out a little bit about how we're going to deal with the tariffs that are coming if she's not willing to get her province on board when they are the giant exporters of oil and gas in this country, right? So that's what we were talking about. You just, you probably entered in it like a sentence that sounded funny.
Can I
also too,
we're all on the same page here. We're all on the same page.
Who's got our TV
what
going?
I do want to say is that it's not just Daniel Smith. Scott Moe has also released that he will not be putting retaliatory tariffs. So the West minus like Phoebe, they are not going to put retaliatory tariffs on the U.S.
Oh, I didn't know that about Scott Moe.
Yeah, and
Can someone mute?
I saw
Yeah,
that.
Can someone
and I
mute
didn't
Mike?
confirm it. So
Can someone mute Mike
hang on,
in the comments or kick him out?
There. One of the troubles that we
Does
have
anybody
is,
know?
I'm looking.
one of the
It's the one
troubles
that says
we're
who cooks
having
dinner.
is this belief system that the Canadian Conservatives and the Republicans are not working together. And we've got to get it in our head that they're all following the same game
Hold on. Who's got the happy birthday stuff going on in the background?
Not me. I hate people.
Can everyone mute up?
Sorry,
Yeah, I can mute.
that's me. I'm on mushroom duty right now.
Can you just mute yourself when other people are talking, just so that because I couldn't hear what was going on. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, just
Go ahead.
another thing I wanted to address with the whole Pierre Poilievre thing. Now we know he's running on the campaign of axe the tax, and the carbon tax. You're either for it or you're against it. There's people on both sides of the fence here. That's not really my concern. My concern with this whole axe the tax, the carbon tax thing is, we know we're paying 17 cents a liter now on fuel. It's going up to 20 cents in April. My concern is he comes in and he removes the carbon tax. What assurances do we have that the gas companies are just going to say, yeah, you know what?
None.
We're going to give you back that 20 cents a liter.
None.
None. They're going to pocket the money. The corporations.
Of course they are. This is what they do. They know that customers are used to paying a certain price. They're never going to lower it. They're never going to do that. That's how economy works. It's such a basic part of economic knowledge that I don't understand how people are missing this. Why do they keep thinking that corporations have an interest in us having a decent life? They don't care about us. No. We're little ants to them. We're nothing. No, they don't care about our well-being. Why would any corporation go out of their way to cut their own profits in order to make our lives better? That's just not going to happen. Not under capitalism. It's impossible. Like, there's very few corporations that do good business, but they're few and far in between, and we love those people. We admire those people, but they're actually working with socialistic principles within their business structure.
Yeah, and that's
any
the thing.
Really smart businessman would know that you can attract more customers if you drop your profit a little bit. You're still making a profit, but you're making things more affordable for people. Ergo, you attract more customers because you're cheaper than your competition. But these guys are not. All they feed on is greed, and that's all it is about them. Get as much money as you can because
it's also because it's been monopolized. A lot of it is whether it's a real monopoly or a shadow monopoly, as I like to call it sometimes. They're working together. That's why the prices aren't coming down, because it's not a true free market. We have the perception of a free market, but it ain't free. I know Hatter had something to say on that.
Not really on that. It was just because I jumped in a little late, but I just wanted to jump back to my take on the Poilievre thing, if it's okay. So from my perception of what I'm seeing is this individual, we'll call him, has based his whole playbook on the name calling and Justin Trudeau, right? And now that Trudeau has stepped down, if you have a brain, you should be able to see that this man doesn't have a freaking plan, because now he's fumbling and now everyone is Trudeau because he has nothing else to go on, right? And I saw a video today which made so much sense. The carbon tax Carney, carbon tax what's her name, Christia, and all the name calling. These are the same kinds of triggers that we use to train a dog to do what we want, right? He's doing that to people.
Yep.
It's slogans, it's tags, it's name calling. There's no policy, there's no fight, there's no plan, right? What is he bringing to the table other than riling up people against invisible boogeymen? Because here's the thing. I personally am anything but conservative, right? I go based on my own morality. I am left-leaning, but I do have some more centrist ideas, etc. I do think some of the people on the left have just gone way too frickin' left, in my opinion, that it's causing more problems. That's just my perception, right? Now, I don't have to agree with these people to know that the right thing to do is to vote for everyone's human rights. I don't have to agree with what you want to do or how you want to do it, but I sure as fuck shouldn't get a say in whether you can do it or not. Because your human rights end where mine begin and vice versa. And that's just the way I see it. Now, in terms of this election, I'm hoping Carney gets in place because I'm going to say this. I've lost a lot of respect for Singh, the way he's been taking a playbook from Pierre Poilievre lately with the name calling and just the way he's done it. That's just my perception. I just don't like it.
Smarshy?
Yeah, I'm just gonna wait till Hatter's done.
Yeah, I'm
good. Okay. I have so much to say on this, man. Where to begin? Where to begin? Yeah, so Poilievre ain't got nothing to run on except for fear mongering and a whole bunch of other shit. He sat there after Elon did his fucking salute, said nothing wrong with it. He also said that John A. MacDonald, our first prime minister, was a hero, and everybody knows he's a fascist piece of shit. Pardon my French. But he has got nothing to go on. There's nothing to run on. He's got absolutely nothing to run on. But fear and the slogans like axe the tax. Is he actually going to axe the tax, or is he just going to say he's going to axe the tax? And then
Sorry, I
once he
don't think
gets
he
in,
can. I think the only thing he can do is axe the rebate. I
yeah,
don't know
but
too much about that.
that's what I'm saying. Is he actually going to axe the tax, or is he going to just change the name of a tax to something else, and we're not all going to understand what's going
I wanted to bring up a good point here that Zojin said in the comments because it is important for us to pay attention to it. He said he does have a plan. He's just not willing to talk about it because he knows how bad that plan is for us Canadians. So he does have a plan. Their policy declaration is online. It's available for everyone to read through. And in that declaration, he talks about privatizing our water. There is a plan.
That's right.
We can look at his past voting records. There is a plan. We can look at other conservative MPs and look at their voting records and look at what they stood for and look what they tried to bring and pass through government. There is a plan. He just won't talk about it because he knows that if he tells people what the true plan is, he is going to lose a part of his own supporters. That's the thing with these guys. All of these guys, these Republicans, these conservatives, they will not stand up and say with their full chest what they actually mean. They're trying to pander to as many humans as possible, when realistically, they have a plan, and we know their plan.
And I want to throw this out there that I've said on numerous occasions that once you look at the Conservative Party as nothing more than the political arm of the business community, what they do begins to make sense. Of course, they're not going to talk about most of their policies because they understand that their primary function is to dismantle the last hurdle in between the business community essentially owning the population, and that is the government. But the other thing that I want to point out is in regards to Polyev, people who over there stumbling around now and looking dazed and lost like somebody's smacked them. Does it not mirror exactly what happened when Biden pulled out of the race? And all of a sudden, the Republican machine that had been geared toward hating on Biden and hating on Biden, all of a sudden had to stumble out of the gate to switch gears to figure out how do we attack Kamala Harris. And that's what we're seeing with the Conservatives right now, is now that Trudeau's out, because you got to think they were on, Carney just announced that he was running, and within 24 hours, the Conservative attack machine was on Carney like he'd won the Liberal leadership already.
I agree, Mr. Radical. I also think that besides the last couple years of repetitive rhetoric from Poilievre, which is, in my personal opinion, brainwashing technique, I use it on my dog, for heaven's sake. Repetitive words. People dogs start believing it, but I think people start believing it as well. I also agree with Hatter, because yes, you can go online, you can learn all about Pierre's past and his so-called future plans. I don't think that they're all disclosed yet. I think we have a big surprise coming our way if he's elected. Good God, I hope not. But for us older folk, I'm just letting you know, we're not fooled. We see the pattern. We see the history. And the older we are, the more of us have already lived through it. So, no. The older, the senior community has no interest in Conservative Party.
Yeah, and another thing too, you just have to anybody can find that out. Go look at his voting history from when he's been an MP, what he's voted for and what he's voted against. He's voted against military veterans getting increased compensation. He's voted against the food program for kids in schools. He's voted against so many fundamental things that would help our society and help our citizens. And you just got to look at it, and that shows you what he stands for.
I think that's one thing that a lot of people are not paying attention to, right? What someone says and what someone does are two different things. Poilievre is standing up there saying he'll do this and he'll do that and he'll do this, but his voting record shows differently. I personally will not vote for a man who stands up on a podium and says he will support a woman's right to choose, but then privately votes against it 5 times. I will not vote for a man who votes against food programs for starving children in school while receiving free lunch on the taxpayer dollar every day. I will not vote for a man who votes against dental care for children while receiving dental care on our taxpayer dollars. I will not vote for a man who owns rental properties while blaming the housing crisis on fucking Justin Trudeau. Sorry for swearing. It's not a federal problem, right? I will not vote for a man that puts the blame on someone like Justin Trudeau, knowing full well that the issues he is pushing forward are more provincial than they are federal, right? He is relying on the ignorance of uneducated amoebas that are running around believing in conspiracy theories, because if I see one more individual in this live scream about the WEF, tells me you don't know what the fuck you're talking about and you're out of your depth to be having these conversations if all you can do is scream about conspiracy theories. Here's the thing. I'm a conspiracy realist. I love me a good conspiracy theory. I am more than willing to believe that aliens made us. But what I'm not going to do is bank my human rights on it. I'm not going to live my life based on a shoulda, woulda, coulda. I'm basing it on what I can see, not what is a potential. Right?
Absolutely, Hatter. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like
Trump
if I have to hear about those damn chemtrails one more time, I swear to God.
It's like they don't know what the fucking atmosphere is and how the...
If I have to hear one more conservative say that the lightning gives you electricity, I'm gonna snap.
Oh my God.
Well, I'm still
Oh.
waiting for my 5G from my vaccine.
Oh my gosh.
So I want to kind of tie this up into the fact that a lot of the MAGA crowd, whether it's Maple MAGAs, whether it's European MAGAs, whether it's American MAGAs, a lot of the reason that they are voting the way that they're voting is because they want things to be brought back to our nation, our country. Don't worry about anywhere else in the world. It's just us. We can take care of ourselves. We don't need anybody. They hate the WEF because it's a global platform. They don't want globalization. Well, all the conservative parties are already part of a global organization called the IDU, and they are trying to
Yep.
sell you on the idea that they're not global and we shouldn't be paying attention to what's going on around the world so that you don't pay attention because they are globalists. They're massive globalists. Everybody wanted Trump because they wanted him to only care about America, pull out of all the wars, no more war just for us, right? What is he doing right now? He's putting in place a globalist plan. He wants to take over other countries. He wants to, annex Canada. He's already had conversations with Xi Jinping and Putin about working together and letting them do whatever they want to do, and them kind of sorting out some sort of a plan where they can basically be leaders of each individual area of the earth. They kind of want to split it up in like the Asiatic region. Russia would have Europe, and then America would take over like America and South America. That's actually what they want to do. So don't tell me that these people don't want globalization when their whole plan is global dominance. And it pisses me off so much when everybody's like, well, let's just focus on Canada. Why aren't we just focusing on Canada? Because we live in a global, modernized world where we're all interconnected, and something that happens across the globe impacts us here. So we need to be able to think in globalistic terms. And for anybody who thinks that we shouldn't, doesn't understand what year we're living in.
So, sorry to interrupt, but someone named Carnage is letting us know that they're reporting us for misinformation. Like, how embarrassing for you, my guy, a grown-ass adult that can't handle other opinions or ideas, right? And this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with, and I hate to say it, uneducated buffoons. It's that simple. Most of these people still don't even know the difference between you are and your. Right?
You're not wrong.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy. And I'm going to be very polite when I say it. I think the biggest problem that we're facing now is we're facing uneducated individuals by no fault of their own. Please do not take this as a diss. But a lot of these blue-collar individuals that are Pierre Poilievre supporters grew up in families where, and I respect it, hardworking, blue-collar, dropped out of school, running the family business, doing what they needed to do just to survive, right? And the problem with that is that when you do not leave where you come from and your lifestyle, you do not develop emotional intelligence. You do not see the way the world works. You do not meet other people if you never leave your little bubble. You do not get to see how the real world works. You only know what your little bubble is, right? And your little bubble is all that matters. And by doing that, you don't have a fucking clue about what's going on in the rest of the world. And you don't develop this emotional intelligence or empathy. Because here's the thing, empathy comes with intelligence. And I don't mean school smarts, book smarts. It's about getting out there and meeting people, seeing how the world works, understanding how everything happens. And a lot of them don't do it. So unfortunately, because of their upbringing and having to be hard workers and having to devote their lives to making sure their families can survive and pay the bills, they have unfortunately not developed to a state where they know what the fuck they're talking about. It is what it is.
Hey guys, I have to throw this out there. We're at that point here. Guys, clapping is tapping or tapping is clapping. Welcome to Beaver Politics. We are a political and societal discussion channel. If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We are on every evening with a different host and a different topic. So help share us, spread us around, tap on those likes and spread the word around. Thanks for coming in and enjoying the conversation. Now, Hatter, I wanted to add what you had to say there. So much of what we're dealing with is the scope of people's ability to take in new information.
Yep.
And we are dealing with, and again, through no fault of people's own,
Yep.
the ability for us to take in information and absorb it and process it is different across the spectrum of humanity.
Yep.
And even if your absorption rate for new information is low, it isn't so much that is the problem. The problem is these people are being deliberately targeted with misinformation, and they are having brain science used against them on a
And
daily.
I agree with you. Sorry, I agree with you 100% in that. But what I'm saying is when you don't know any better and you don't know any different, you're easier to manipulate in that regard. Once again, I'm not saying this from a place of hatred or bullying or anything like that towards these individuals that live in this blue collar lifestyle, because I have so much fucking respect for it. I grew up in blue collar families, right? But I got out, I did my thing, and I saw the world, right? And unfortunately, when you don't have that experience of how the world works, you're easier to control. You're easier
Absolutely.
to manipulate because you don't know. And when someone tells you, oh my God, trans people are a big issue, it's like less than 2% of the population. You've
Right.
created this invisible boogeyman because someone else wants to live their life. But because you don't leave it, because you don't leave your little rural area, you don't see what's happening and you don't see that the threat does not exist. So you're easier to manipulate in that way, right? And I think my biggest issue with individuals like this is that it's gotten to the point where it doesn't matter how much you bring to the table, how much fact, how much data, how much proof. It's name calling, it's fake news, it's everything's a conspiracy, and there's no actual
Or it's racist.
opportunity to interact with these individuals because they won't listen to anything.
Or
And
Heather,
another
it's
thing
Right
too.
racist.
now, I've gotten to the point where I could give two shits about these people and trying to change their mind because it's not gonna matter. My goal now, because I'm very blunt in the way I do things, I'm trying to get the point across to people that are sitting on the fence. Right?
And when they're
It's that's
and
it.
when their leaders or their supporters do something that's wrong, they'll never admit. They'll always deflect. A prime example is this whole Elon Musk thing with the schmutzy gesture that he made, and they're trying to deflect and say, "Oh, that's not what he meant by that. This was the Roman like all kinds of things that don't make sense. That just to justify their actions when they're wrong. They're actions that we all know what he meant by that. Everybody else around the world
Yeah.
knows what that symbol meant, but they always try to deflect and say, "Oh, it was because he was autistic." All kinds of excuses. They will never admit when one of their leaders says something that's out of place or just
Listen,
unfactual.
at the end of the day, my point, and I'll make this, and then someone can jump up and take my place. I know we got a lot of good people in here that can talk more intellectually than me without swearing. Um, my big thing is this: if you support and endorse a man who is found liable of sexual misconduct, if sexual assault was not a deal breaker for you, don't come to me with your morality because you don't have any. It's that simple. I would never allow myself, I don't care how much I believed in someone's policies, to vote for a rapist. It's that simple.
Well, and I make the I just realized I could make a slogan in my head that's MCIA, Make Canada Indigenous again. I think that's what we should go back to. Because we actually had a government where we kept people in mind, and we need a government that's going to work for the people, not against the people, and not the people working for the government, and vice versa. We don't need that. We need to
Yep.
come together, and everyone in the comments saying, "Oh, we're just whatever," I hate that word, the lib something or other, and then oh,
Libtards.
this
We're
is
called libtards.
yeah, I don't like using that word because it's a yeah, and they can
Yeah.
say what they want, they can chirp in the comments, but honestly, I don't care. I will hold all government accountable. I don't care if someone
Yeah.
on the right does something messed up. I will go and hold them accountable. If someone on the left does it, I'll do the same thing. Because at the end of the day, the people that need to be blamed are the people that need to be blamed, not everyone else. And
Yep.
it's not Justin Trudeau's fault that there's no power in Alberta. That's on Danielle Smith or
That,
Marlena
but
Smith.
listen,
But
Linda,
this is the
listen.
thing. Go ahead.
Sorry, that's another thing about these people blaming Justin Trudeau for he doesn't have that much power. Like, if y'all gonna sit here and keep screaming about how Justin Trudeau, you don't know how the government works. It's that simple. Justin Trudeau does not make the final decision for everything, right? Oh God, I can't.
Yeah.
You want to
It boggles my mind that these people think that one man has so much power.
yeah,
Can
you
we
want to sit
can we give Polly, can you throw your 2 cents in, and then
I'm gonna jump out.
afterwards
I'm
can
gonna
we
let
get
someone else join.
Thanks for
uh
being up
It's
here.
great
We
chatting to you. Love
appreciate
y'all.
you.
Bye.
thank you.
thanks for
Bye.
popping in, Hatter.
I
Polly,
agree.
take care.
Sorry?
You go ahead, Polly.
I agree with a lot of what Hatter's saying, but I still think we need to be careful that we want to get through to some people, and we can get through, but we have to be careful with our words and saying that they're uneducated and that sort of thing. Like, I think we do need to try to talk to them, but without putting them down in the same breath. Although I don't think that's what Hatter was doing. Like, I agree with a lot of what he was saying, and I get it. I get what he's saying, right? But people might run with it and take it and be like, "Oh, Trudeau said that we were all, what did he say? We're all a small minority," and then every single person identified as that. So we have to be careful that we don't make people think that we're talking about everybody, because we're not talking about everybody. Right, I think when Hatter, I wish he hadn't stepped down, because then he could confirm what I'm saying. But I think Hatter is talking about like the small freedom fighters that are left over now, which is a very, very small group now. It's like they're tiny, and they've broken up into different fractions, and I think that's who he was talking about. I hope I'm right.
And I think
You are.
Yeah.
What
Eric?
we're hearing is the frustration that a lot of us feel, and I think what you're hearing from Mad Hatter, and again, I don't want to speak for him, but what I hear when he speaks is just the frustration of watching people continuously seem to deliberately go against everybody's interests. And I've said before, they are voting in their own interest, even if we can't understand how those interests are actually put together. So, with that said, Strong Women 4, I want to get a chance for you to have something to say here as well.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I originally started my handle because I was originally concerned about, turning back women's choice, freedom of choice, because the conservatives have shown to, vote against women's rights, right? So what I wanted to say is to support the idea of, those people in the middle who may have, thought they might want to, vote conservative. This week in the United States has been the best evidence for maybe getting people to vote back the way that they should be voting and not vote conservative, not be tricked by slogans. Because I want to say that this week has shown that you really need to believe when people show you who they are and what they're saying. People are not paying enough attention to those things that Poilievre said in the Jordan Peterson interview, in when he talks about agreeing with gender, which is a construct, right? Like, the thing is, when he's talking about that, you need to believe that he will act on those things. We've seen that with Trump this week. And believe it. If you don't, like, that's why people always say, oh, he'll never take back women's rights. He has indicated by voting against women's rights. You cannot trust that he will not do that. And you need to believe him when he says that, because we're having evidence of that in the States, that Trump was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Look at all the things he's dismantling. And you must believe him. You can't say he will never do it, you know?
And I do want to point out quickly, too, that, a lot of his supporters, it's not that they don't believe that this will happen, it's that they want it to happen. And it's very unfortunate, but that's the truth. A lot of his supporters don't want women to have rights. They don't want women in the workplace. They don't want any sort of, initiatives to make sure that everybody feels included. They don't want trans people to have rights. They wanted to go back to the 1950s. Like they want that. So it's unfortunate, but and I think also to talk about this kind of brings in when we're talking about like, oh, how do we approach conservatives? How do we approach these voters? We've been trying to approach them for years and years and years. So when I see people in the comments that are like, oh, you guys just don't want to listen to other perspectives, it's like, no, we have been listening. We've been listening for a long, long time. We've been trying to talk to you for years and years and years and years. So that's why at this point, we're not dealing with conservatives anymore. We're dealing with people that are on the fence and that are slowly waking up. And we're seeing some of that. We're seeing some people that are generally hands off, fingers in their ears, don't want to think about what's happening. It's all too negative. Finally, these people are like, oh, this guy did that on a world stage. Maybe I should learn about what's going on in my country. Maybe this could affect me. And so we are starting to see some people very, very slowly wake up. I just don't know if it's going to be fast enough. But you're right. We need to take these people where they are. They're showing who they are. We need to believe it.
Yes, and we believe that they will act on it. And we're seeing what he says in the background, like he has these little messages and he's like, like he's agreeing with the genders this week, and I mean, that's how he really feels. So we cannot not believe that he won't act on it in some way if he was voted in. And I kind of personally, for personal calmness, I guess, or, to be sort of in level, is that I can't get those people on the far, those conservatives that will always say, oh, you just do this or you just do that. But I think that the tides, we've seen these polls and we've seen those people that were on the fence, that were maybe convinced to take a change, say, hey, wait a minute, we are seeing what's happening, and he's tying himself to Trump in some ways and, subscribing to the same thought process. And I don't think most of Canada wants that. I don't think we want this radicalized, sort of crazy, really, we don't want to be shocked into some sort of prime minister. Like, I don't want that. We are the frustrating part, what I feel, and this is my personal opinion, I'm a very ethereal person and, emotional. And, we are all raising our families to have morals, to contribute to community, and to be part of society. So it's so hard when you find somebody just, not valuing that, right? And just telling us that it's not the way to go. And it's very hard. But I have 2 grown daughters, and, I really get upset because I think a lot of people think women's freedoms, choices are just about women running around, basically, those people who think that women's rights should be taken away. And this is a big can of worms. But, even the thought of my daughter not getting a medical abortion because it was taken away, because her body rejected the baby or something, and she was going to die as well as the child. I find that.
Can we keep certain TikTok words? AB instead of the full world, and use things like unalive or something.
Unalive, okay.
Just because TikTok likes to flag you for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm sorry. So that's
no
why
worries.
I just think that it's not only about, loose women, which people sometimes think. That's why we need AB, right? Like, it's not the reason. There's lots of reasons. And we don't want to jeopardize that in any way. And I can't trust, by the way that he voted, and all its conservatives, and somebody rose in the House of Commons. I think it was in October, and put forward, and I can't trust that they won't go for it, and I don't want that.
And
Yeah,
for me,
and go ahead.
no, and for me, what's mind-boggling too is how many people, not just in the States but in Canada, vote against their own interests because they don't do any research. They just listen to the surface level things that the politicians are saying without actually reading and looking into their history, their voting history, their platforms, and what they're doing. In the States, it's a prime example. The majority of Trump voters that voted for Trump were people in the lower income brackets that now are going to be paying higher taxes and are going to have life is going to be less affordable for them under Trump than it would have been under Kamala Harris because he's lowering the taxes for the rich. The rich voting for Trump actually makes more sense because they're actually benefiting from him. But all of the lower income people that are voting for Trump, it boggles my mind. You're voting against your own interests, and how do you not do any research and not fact check anything and just take him at his word? Like I just don't understand it. And how do we get through to these people? That's the thing.
This is how you control a population, though, right? You keep them uneducated, and the education system was tailored in a way that makes people not able to think critically anymore. Because our education system in Canada is a lot better than it is in the States, but there are a lot of especially in the red states, the education is very, very, very bad. It is. I mean, kids are not graduating elementary school and high school understanding how to think critically, understanding how to do research, understanding when they hear someone speak, whether they can trust that or not. They don't know that. They genuinely don't know that because it's a system that was tailored to making them take things at face value, not think more deeply, and not understand critical reasoning, right? So that's a big reason why we're seeing people vote against their own interests.
Not just that, in the United States.
May I speak before I leave?
Hold on.
Sorry,
if you got it, let's let Hatter finish, and then Grandma Sadie, and then NPU.
Okay, I just wanted to add to that. The thing about the American school system is that their level of education is based on the poverty level of the area they're in. Just by the way. And the reason why I popped back in, sorry, very quickly before I drop out again, was because this was the topic we were talking about when I referred to other people as being uneducated. And we wanted some clarification on what I meant. Polycheck, do you want to jump back in and just clarify what? I think sometimes my words, I'm a very blunt person and I'm very polarizing. I know that about myself, and I know how my words can be taken out of context, right? When I say, or what I was referring to, I was trying to be very respectful. I'm not referring to all people that vote against liberal ideologies or left-leaning ideologies as uneducated. When I say uneducated, it's meant more as a lack of understanding of how the world works. Right? Maybe I need a better word for it. But I do think that for me personally, and no one here has to agree with me, and I don't expect anyone to, but I, as a gay man, have reached my limit with the Ku Klux convoy members that are constantly up in my feed and my timeline pushing their fucking narratives. So I personally am done playing nice or trying to engage with these individuals because we've been doing it for years and it's not working. So for me, my goal is to share the truth in my way with people that want to listen and might be on the fence. If you just want to argue, I don't have time for you. That's just where I'm at. I'm not trying to be diplomatic. I'm not trying to be liked by everybody. I'm just doing what I want to do because of what I believe in human rights and fighting for that in my way. Does that make sense? I'm not deliberately trying to diminish anyone's upbringing. As I said multiple times, I am huge mad respect for hardworking individuals, but the reality in my experience is based on their lack of leaving their small community to see how the world works. This was not meant as a diss. It was not meant to insult anyone. It's meant with the greatest of respect, but it is still in my experience, right? And I'm at the point where I'm only going to be polite to those who are going to be polite to me. I will never look for someone and smack them down. The only replies I do that hurt someone's feelings or if they come to me first with a shitty attitude, right? I match energy. If you want to have an open debate and politics and facts and data and resources, I am more than willing to do that. But I will no longer be wasting my breath on those that don't want to do that in return, if that makes sense.
Perfect sense.
Okay.
Clarified.
As long as no one thinks I'm calling all fucking conservatives. Here's the thing. I have no issue with conservatives. I have no issue with conservative ideologies. I have an issue with far-right extremists who have taken over the Conservative Party because the modern-day conservatives are not conservative anymore. They're extremists.
That's very well said, and exactly the way I would think it too. Because the way
Can we just let Grandma Sadie? Can we just let Grandma Sadie say her piece because she wanted to talk and I think she's got to go. So I want to make sure that we give her the chance to say her piece, and then we'll come right back to you, Angela.
Thank you very much. All I had left to say was that I agree. I was just going to say what Hatter just said. The right has gone too far right, and I think it's now time, even though we can still listen and pay attention to what's going on in other countries, Canada has to come first. And I haven't heard that once tonight. And we have to pay attention to global, what's going on down south, and be prepared. I truly believe we have to be prepared. Whether it's going to be hit economically or by something else, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say, so I'm not saying it. But I believe Canada is being set up for failure, and we have to be on guard.
I still have too much hope in Canadians. Here's the thing. I'm Canadian and South African, and reason why I moved back to Canada at the age of 26 was because my family grew up here. This is why I was born here, right? I was taught about the morality of Canadians. I was taught how great Canadians are, how welcoming, how accepting, how loving, but how tough they are when it comes to doing the right thing, right? And that is a dream that I came to live here in Canada because I had a passport, and a dream that I will hold on to with my entire fucking being, and a dream that I will fight with because I believe in the goodness of Canadians still, right? And I think the worst of them right now are just the loudest, and I truly still have faith in the Canadian belief and the Canadian morality. And it's like Justin Trudeau said in that one interview, the best thing about Canadians is that we're not American, right?
Yes. But I'm sorry if I offended anybody. I hope everyone a good evening. It was a fantastic live, and good night. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Thank you. Wait, I think I'm going to stay a little more.
What are supposed to be in? When am I supposed to talk?
I was going to say that you can go after Angela because I know she wanted to say something, but if she wants to let you go first, I feel like you should kind of go first because you haven't said anything yet. And I'd really like to hear you out as well.
Give me a second. Let Angela go after my connection. Oh, no, I'm back. I honestly think what it is that I was telling people Donald Trump signed 19 executive orders in the first day of his presidency. He revoked the 1965 Civil Rights Act. He revoked the LGBTQ Protection Act. And somebody said, that's good. And I said, oh, you're a Bible thumper. Okay, I get it. Do you even know the fine print behind that why that bill was signed in the first place? And he said, oh, Trump is pro-Christian. I'm like, oh. When were your parents born? He said, oh, they're born in the late 1960s. Okay. My parents are born in the late 1940s and early 1950s, which means my parents were around during the horrible, disgusting laws that were in place back then. They were alive to see some things that you cannot justify today.
And someone said, what? I mean, well, it said the LGBTQ Protection Act was signed to make forced gay conversion therapy illegal in America. By revoking that law, doctors now, because back in the 1950s, to protect to maintain their medical license to practice medicine, a doctor had to forcibly, involuntarily hospitalize somebody who was in that community for gay conversion therapy. I said, do you even know what happened in those hospitals once they're in those places? And I'm not going to get into details, but there are things that were done in order that you cannot justify at all. They treated it as a mental illness, like there was something wrong with them. And it was horrible, and you can't justify that at all. And so what scares me is that I have a relative who's in the LGBTQ community. If anybody puts their hands on her, they're going to have to answer to me. Because it's like you cannot justify that at all. At all. So Trump is undoing 65 years worth of work. I said affirmative action was designed to prevent the mistreatment and unfair practices of factory workers to ensure they have a safe, sound environment to work in. What this person said was the complete opposite. They said, no, affirmative action was in place. I wasn't able to get equal employment. I'm like, did you ever consider maybe that the person that they hired just happened to be cheaper to hire, and that that their skin color had nothing to do with it, and they just weren't getting it? Like people that get all the work are a lot more affordable. They're willing to work less, to get paid less. That's the only reason why. It's not by lack of merit or discrimination or this affirmative action law working against you. It's because they're willing to get paid less, and your prices are too damn high. And it was like talking to a brick wall. I'm thinking, why is it that most Trump supporters are the dumbest people ever? They're the smartest, dumbest people ever. As educated as they are, they never read the fine print on anything.
And I mean, this also goes to tie into why Zuckerberg changed the rules around Facebook, right? Because now you're allowed to call people in the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, you're allowed to call them mentally ill, and Facebook won't do anything about it.
Right.
And then he goes and signs this executive order. Like, we know what's coming. From now on, you're going to have to keep your sexuality to yourself in the United States.
My whole issue with this whole ideology that's part of the MAGA thing and now part of this far right candidate.
Hold on. I think he's still trying to talk, but he's cutting in and out really badly. NPU, you're cutting in and out really badly. I think that's why the Hatter started talking, because it went silent there for a while. We can't hear you. It's okay. Work on your connection, and then I promise you'll talk next after Hatter.
Okay. So
I can tell his connection's bad.
This whole "Make Canada Great Again, Make America Great" for whom?
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Great for whom? The thing is,
cis white gendered men.
But this is my point, right? This is how I look at it. The world is ever evolving. We are constantly moving forward, whether it's technology, medicine, society as a whole. We cannot go back, right? We cannot go back. We may not agree with the way things are moving forward, but we can do our fucking best to make things better for everyone else. Why do you care if a man walks around wearing lipstick? It's none of your fucking business. If you don't believe in gay marriage, don't get gay married. If you don't believe in abortion, don't get an abortion. But you do not get to dictate what other people get to do with their lives. I, as a gay man, have a lot of issues with how far the queer community has gone, right? But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop fighting for my community. I don't have to agree with it, but it's not my fucking life. They should still be able to express and be themselves however the fuck they want. Everyone has that right. This is what it is. We are moving forward. We cannot go back. Stop trying to say, make it great again, because I hate to break it to you. It was never great for all people, right? Never was, never will be. And this is why we need to move forward and try to make it better with each generation. It is what it is.
Can I ask you something? As someone who's a part of the Indigenous community,
Yes,
how
sir.
do most I want to know everybody who's Canadian on the panel because I'm not Canadian. How do everyday people feel about the mass graves that have been found at all the Indigenous boarding schools?
Sick to our stomach. Well, I mean, those of us that are here, I know, feel sick to our stomachs.
Yeah, I know that. So I had a bigger account when all that was coming to light, and having grown up in South Africa, I didn't know anything about residential schools or the way Indigenous people were treated. So I actually used my platform to do a lot of learning about it. Um, and I've had a lot of Indigenous people basically like adopt me and and teach me all of this. But it just, for me personally, I think it's absolutely abhorrent.
I was in a
It's
Catholic-run boarding school
disgusting.
too.
And I think that's something that a lot of people seem to forget. There's so many people up in this comment thing talking about how Trudeau hasn't done much for the Indigenous community. Granted, he hasn't done everything, but he's done a lot more. And a lot of Indigenous people have spoken out about this, that he's done more than most, right, in the past. But then you have Pierre Poilievre, who referred to people that were forced into residential schools as having partook in it, as if they had a fucking choice.
And then he called them lazy too, don't forget. He called them lazy and said that they just need to work harder.
And Jordan Peterson, he said with Jordan Peterson that racist is a woke.
A woke ideology.
Yeah.
But not just that.
I never got
Hold
to hear
on,
Eric's
one at a
opinion on it.
time, people, one at a time.
I never got to hear Eric's opinion on it.
Sorry?
I want to hear. I want to hear Eric's opinion too.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to speak on it. I am Indigenous, so I can't speak to this. I'm an Indigenous. I'm an Ojibwe from the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory in Ontario.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I'm also Indigenous too. That's why I was asking. Like, how do
So just to speak on what Hatter was saying, yes, Trudeau has done more than any other government has in the past. It doesn't fix the wrongs. Like I said, my great grandfather was forced into residential school. He was lucky enough to have escaped, and he still, all those years later, would never speak of the atrocities that happened there. He just didn't want to talk about it. It probably brought up too many emotions for him. And one thing that Trudeau did bring forward, and it doesn't fix the past, he did bring in legislation to bring forward compensation for those families. Our family was compensated. We did receive some financial compensation. I know money doesn't fix everything, but you know what? At least my great grandfather, if he was alive today, would know that, hey, this money at least is going to help my families. My suffering wasn't all for nothing. At least we're getting something to be able to bring that. Hopefully, a lot of these families now, it was life-changing money for a lot of these families. And I'm hoping that, you know what, these families can get out of that cycle of poverty that they've been living through for generations and generations now with this money that they've received. So like I said, it doesn't fix what happened, but at least the Liberals and the Trudeau government are trying to reconcile to a certain degree. We now have National Truth and Reconciliation Day in Canada, which was in part from the Liberals that brought that forward. It's a nationally recognized holiday now. So they have done a lot of good, but it doesn't fix all the atrocities from the past, which the government was heavily involved in.
I am also Indigenous. NPU stands for Native Peoples United.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, that's good to know.
I was in a residential boarding school in the States. It's still open.
If I could comment on this as an off-white person. I live not too far from the Red Brick School. If you have YouTube, please go look up the Red Brick School and watch it. It's a difficult watch, but it's an important watch. Now,
can I say something?
I'm sorry?
Can I just say something?
Yep.
If the Canadian government ever wants to tear those schools down, tell them no. Leave them as they stand, brick by brick. Do not demolish a single ounce of those schools. Leave them as they are. The same reason why Dachau and Auschwitz still stand today. Leave them where they are, because that is a painful reminder as to this happened.
Yeah.
And it's the same reason why the Willowbrook Asylum on Staten Island in New York is still standing today. It's a pain for my father who's in that place.
Yeah.
the atrocities done to my father are horrible.
Yep.
And it's the same reason why when my father visited me at the Astor Home for Children, that's where I was at, a Catholic-run residential school, and the place was horribly run. It wasn't just Indigenous kids; it was kids of all races, and we were all mistreated in various ways. Poor security, getting beaten up on a regular basis. That's all I'm comfortable talking about. Sorry. Anyway,
sorry, where are you from, NPU? Like, what part of are you from? The States, or where are you from?
Yeah, I'm from the States.
Where about? Like, what area? I'm just curious. Yeah.
East Coast, Northeast.
East Coast. Okay. That's all we need to go on. Just to have a rough idea. Now, as I was saying, from my perspective,
right below Toronto.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the thing that resonates to me the most is shock. Because if you were, in spite of the red brick school being right close to where I went to school, we just didn't know. When you learned about Indigenous peoples in grade 5 or 6, I forget exactly which, you spent a couple of months on the culture and so on. But at no point did they really touch on the actual legacy of Indigenous peoples in North America or South America for that matter. So I think for myself, shock when we really realized how much of the truth had been hidden and pushed aside and simply not acknowledged, even though it was there for people like myself in plain sight.
So I want to add something to this conversation that's, how do I put this? Okay, so I grew up in South Africa, right? As I mentioned, I was a small kid when apartheid was still going on. And it ended, I think, when I was like 9 years old. I didn't grow up in a pro-apartheid family. So I didn't know what apartheid was or understand it until later in life, right? And then from like the end of apartheid to the time I left South Africa, I grew up under the presidency of Nelson Mandela and Thabo Mbeki, right? So I saw I can't talk about what South Africa's like now. I don't live there anymore. I don't follow the politics. I can only speak on my experience and the changes that happened. And I think having grown up under such a switch in climate and societal changes that was almost overnight, one of the things that I really struggle with here in North America is how these governments in America or even in Canada can be like, oh, well, change can't be instantaneous. Nelson Mandela did it. I saw it happen. I lived through it. Like, as soon as Nelson Mandela came into power, history books were removed from our schools because it was told from the white man's perspective. Equality started coming into play. Changes were made. Things pretty much happened overnight. So having seen that it can change, it still boggles my mind that North America still has a mindset of change cannot be instantaneous. Because it can.
You just have to have the will.
That's something I just like why is this? It doesn't make sense to me when I look at it like that.
Can I just say something? I'm going to leave because I want to give someone else a chance to come up. I have really enjoyed being part of this group. I am proud. This is the Canada and the Canadians that I know and I love, and I know that the country is filled with many more of us. And I hope to be invited again and enjoy the conversation. And what a great group of people. So thanks for the invite, and I'll see you again real soon, and someone else can come in. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
And I just want to throw this in quick. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. We are at 7:25, so we've only got a few minutes left. So we should look at just kind of wrapping up for the evening here and maybe hit on a last thought from everybody on the panel here tonight.
Okay.
I'm guessing that we shouldn't bring more people up here unless somebody wants to just give us,
Is Johnny still
Oh,
here?
we got our live goal, guys. We achieved our live goal. Thank you for everybody for helping
Thank
us
you,
do that.
everyone. NPU, why don't you close off with a thought for the evening?
Close up and what? Just so I can get a clear idea of what you mean.
What we
Just
can
give us a
all go
closing
through. We
thought.
can go through everybody. At
Yep.
the end of the day, I'm the one hosting. So Radical, if you need to jump out a little bit earlier, that's fine. But let's give everybody a chance to do a closing statement, shall we?
You bet.
All right, let's start with NPU.
I think that both anybody from the States and from Canada, we do need each other. I think that a lot of our doctrines, a lot of our documents that were written hundreds of years ago are outdated, and that we need to come together and really roll up our sleeves and come up with a solution that both ordinary people on both sides of the border can survive this. And because both politicians from your country and ours are scaring the hell out of everybody,
Yep.
and we need to come to one realistic fact. These men approached everybody while they were passionate and desperate, and that's exactly what Mustache Man did back during World War II, and that's how he rose to power, because he reached people while they were desperate and passionate, and that's a very scary combination. Those are people that are easy to manipulate. And we
Yep.
cannot be passionate. We cannot be passionate or desperate, no matter how bad things get. Passion and desperation are two nasty combinations that will make us easily brainwashable, and we need to keep a clear head, no matter what we do. So,
Yeah.
yes, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get scary. And while let's be one evident and clear thing, Fred Trump changed the name to Trump. The real name is Drumpf, because Trump's grandfather, Fred Senior's father, was a brown shirt of that party. So that family has ties to Mustache Man due to their original family name. So that scary thought is somebody who has a lineage and an influence connected to Mustache Man is now running America, and that's the reality. He followed the doctrine to the letter, and he approached people that are desperate and passionate. We cannot afford to do that. I would tell anybody, keep a clear head.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them get inside your head, and no matter how much they fuck with you, you fuck with them back. You have a nice night.
Thank you.
Have a good evening,
Thank
NPU.
you.
Thanks, NPU.
I can do my
Potter.
closing very quickly. I might sound like a conspiracy theorist when I say this, but if you guys don't know what Project Paperclip is, you should probably look it up, because as a queer man, I am fucking scared, because I feel like we are watching the rise of the Fourth Reich. They have had almost 100 years to plan this, and we are literally seeing the playbook happen right in front of our eyes. So the way I see it from here on out, you are either standing with us or you're in my motherfucking way, right? It's that simple. If you're not calling out this behavior, you are part of the fucking problem. If you are not calling out a salute like Elon Musk's, what's his name? Adolf Hitler. If you're not calling that behavior out, you're endorsing it. And one more thing, my final closing argument. If you bitches are gonna come for me in my comments, your YOU apostrophe RE. Thank you. That's it. That's my time. It's
Beautiful.
a fan,
Thanks,
so
Adam.
it's your. That's it. That's me. That's my time.
And I was gonna say, just stay in the box until we're actually done, because it actually helps people see the live more as we're going through everybody. So just stay in the box until we're done. All right, Polly, your turn.
I think we all need to come together. We all need to stop fighting. We need to come together. It's very important. And we all need to encourage people in our lives to go out and vote. And NPU. I'm sad that you went down. Is he still comments?
Might be.
Probably.
NPU, I felt you. I felt that there was some pain there, and I'm really sorry for everything that you had to go through. And I want to thank you for sharing tonight with us. Yeah, your story. And that's me.
Thank you, Polly.
Thank you. Pumpkin.
Yeah, sorry, I was not really able to get a word in earlier. I wanted to say that, yeah, my husband is Indigenous, right? And I spent a lot of time in our community, and I know a great many people who have been in those institutions and the residential schools, and also the Indian day schools, which were not better, but were happening after as well. So, like, it's just absolutely deplorable. And I'm glad that we're making efforts to do reconciliation. I think there's still more that always will need to be done. And I mean, I think that we need to keep doing that. Obviously, voting for the people who are not for that is a bad idea. So, I mean, I wouldn't do that. And also, just reality is reality. So, you know, you can believe what you see with your own eyes, and don't ever let anybody tell you that something is just a hand gesture or that it's something that it isn't. You saw what you saw. It was what it was. Don't let them manipulate you. You can believe yourself.
Sorry, could I ask you a question? You said you had married an Indigenous fella. And one of the questions that I kind of posed out there is for myself when I started to understand just how much involvement was with the residential school and how ugly that got. For me, there was a lot of shock. How much did you know before you married your husband?
Before I married my husband, well, I mean, before I met my husband, I didn't know anything about them because it was only just coming out into like our schooling when we met. But I would say that by the time that I had married my husband, I knew quite a bit about it because of the fact that I had been spending a lot of time in his community, and I have many friends who went to residential schools, and they've shared some of their stories with me. It's not my place to share those stories. But I can say that the atrocities that people have experienced, and they all say, oh yeah, no, they picked them up when they were 5, right? 5 years old is not the youngest that some of those children were taken to those schools. Some of them were under the age of 3.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's deplorable. I already had a sensation that like Canada had some very terrible things that we had done because my textbooks were in French, but they basically introduced, you know, the colonization practices that had happened to this country as, oh yeah, and the nice priests brought Christianity to the natives. And I read this and I went, this is absolutely the most disgusting junk that I've ever read in my whole life. This is such a lie. There's no way that this is the book that I'm reading right now in my history class. But that's the way that it was posed. So I mean, at that point, I felt a little bit ashamed to just be white at all, honestly, reading that when I was in like my grade, for anybody who's not in Quebec, for like grade 8 when I was like reading that. But yeah, no, learning about residential schools was quite a shock because I hadn't known anything about it. And I did want to learn more, and I have learned a lot more. And I'm sure that we will never know all of the stories that have happened at those places. So many voices were silenced.
Thank you for sharing that. Eric.
Thanks. Yeah. First of all, I just want to thank the moderators here. This is all new to me. This kind of live debate on TikTok. I've just started to get kind of involved in this, and I've got to say, the few that I've been involved in, this is probably one of the most respectful, well organized debates that I've been involved with. I've gotten a lot of good information from Hatter, from Radical, from yourself. I'm definitely going to be joining these again because I've been in some other debates that have just been complete chaos and a shit show, for lack of a better term. So yeah, this debate's been really great. And yeah, like as far as the residential schools, because I grew up, like I said, in an indigenous family. I was aware long before this came out to the news that not to the extent that I've heard, but I was aware because the way I had people in my family, my great grandfather, and the story, so I knew that things weren't good. Things that were happening there. There were a lot of atrocities that were going on there that were never really spoken about until it came to light with the mass grave, the finding of the mass grave, before the attention was really brought forward to it. So yeah, it's awful. It's terrible, and I'm glad that, you know what, the last government, the Trudeau government, that was finally starting to recognize it and starting to try to make some reparations. There's still a long ways to go. He's brought a lot of clean drinking water now back to the communities. There are still some that don't have clean drinking water, which is terrible, but there's progress being made now, and that makes me feel hopeful that there is some progress being made now. And I hope that's not all undone with the next government that comes in. And one more thing I wanted to touch on was the whole thing with Trump. And it is absolutely scary. And we have to take this seriously. We can't take this as a lot of people are taking this as a joke and are saying, oh, he's not going to do those things. He's talking about taking over the Panama Canal, taking over Greenland. When he says these things, we have to believe him. We have to believe what he's saying, because this has happened in the past with Mustache Man. It's happened in the past. And we need to take this seriously, because when he talks this way and he says these things, we have to have a plan in place. We can't just brush this off saying, oh, that could never happen again. Well, nobody probably thought in the 40s and the 30s that that could ever happen, that the genocide and all that happened in Germany, that could ever happen. And it did. And it can happen again. Not to be a fearmonger, but it can happen again. And we need to be on our toes. And we really, really need to know. We really, really, really have to stay strong. And we cannot let this happen. We cannot let this man try to take over the world, basically. And I'll end it with that. Thank you guys very much.
Thank
Can
you.
I'm sorry, just say one more thing very quickly.
You got 30 seconds.
That's fine. I'll be very quick and then I'll shut up. I promise.
Go for it.
I think what Pumpkin said is really fucking important, because I, for one, feel like the world as we know it is about to change. And the problem is that every year, every fucking presidential election, every regular, we sit here and we think, you know what? It's just 4 years. Nothing's going to change. And we've become complacent, right? So I feel like we now need to be vigilant, because I feel like something huge is about to happen. And the fact that we just think, oh, it'll just be 4 years and we'll be fine. Yeah, I don't think this. I just feel like we need to be vigilant, because we become complacent in thinking that nothing major will ever happen, because nothing major ever does. And that is a perfect time for us to have the rug pulled out from under our feet. That's it. That was my 30 seconds.
Thanks, Adder.
Sorry.
Radical, your turn.
I think I just want to throw this out there. The entire philosophy behind Beaver politics, and I'll just take actually this opportunity to thank everybody that showed up and was on the panel tonight and who's viewing. But the overriding philosophy of what Beaver politics wants to be is an open, logical discourse where we see the betterment of humanity and the progression of humanity as the ultimate goal for everybody, no matter what side of the political spectrum we are on. Right now, we absolutely disagree on those methods, but I firmly believe that no matter what human being that you talk to, no matter what part of this world that you talk to them on, what we all want for the most part is all the same. The disagreement we're having right now is how do we get there? And we believe on the left that how we get there is by including everyone and meeting their needs, which we believe is possible.
Unless their needs Also, unless their needs hurt a giant part of the population, because at that point,
Yeah.
it's not, you know what I mean? Like, I can't include somebody that doesn't want me to have rights and that doesn't want me to be able to vote, that doesn't want me to be able to go to work and have a career and thinks that I should just stay at home and be an incubator. So
That's
when
not
it
a
comes to that's to them though, that's the thing though, to them it's a need because that's how they think, right? So unfortunately, some needs cannot be met. If your needs means that you're going to be marginalizing an entire community, we can't meet those needs. We can only meet needs that make sure that everybody is living in equality and cohesion.
Sorry,
I had to say that.
what do those numbers in the corner mean by our name with a little blue circle around it? What is that?
I think
people gave you little gifts.
All of you.
Is that what that is? Okay, I was
They'll give
wondering,
you
like, what
gifts.
is that?
Those are like little coins or gifts that you give to people. I think
Yeah,
each
you
one
got
is worth
26
like a
coins.
cent. Yeah, you got
Okay.
you made 26 cents tonight.
All right.
The bottom line is you're being complimented on what you have to say.
Okay, I was wondering what that was.
All right. Are you guys ready for me to end it off with my little 2 cents?
Absolutely.
So this is actually something I said in a live earlier today when I was actually in Polly's live. And so this is what I want to end with because this is what I want us all to think about going forward. The people that are involved on our side are already involved. We already know that they're going to be casting their votes in a way that is taking everybody's rights into account. Now, there is a massive part of our population, I'm even going to say like 50 or 60%, that doesn't watch the news, that doesn't know what's happening, that hasn't been paying attention at all, right? I work in a lot of these communities where, I kid you not, guys, I've been meeting people in person that didn't even know that Trump was now in charge of America. They're like, what? That happened? Oh, I wasn't paying attention. I don't like to think about that too much because it's uncomfortable and it's just negative. So there's a lot of those people. Now, I believe, sorry, I gotta turn off my heater there. It was way too hot. I genuinely believe that most of these people that don't pay attention, if they actually knew what was happening, they'd be on our side. I really believe that. I really, really do, right? Like, I work with a bunch of yogi hippies. They have no clue what's going on in the world. They don't pay attention to the news for the most part, but they're good people. And if they understood what danger we have coming our way, they would do the right thing. But I don't know how to motivate these people. I don't know how to talk to these people. I've lost friendships with good people just because I was politically involved. And they looked at that as too negative. I don't want to talk about it. That's too negative. And so I probably shouldn't have walked away, but when I got really frustrated when Trump won the election back in November, I actually told some people, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. And I kind of want to come back to a quote and kind of end this with the quote from Martin Luther King that I actually posted on my page not too long ago, that he who accepts evil without protesting against it is really cooperating with it. And that's what I'm having a hard time with, because there are a lot of people out there right now who are just wanting to do this because it's too negative, it's too much for them to take on, but by doing that, they are helping the most dangerous person and the most dangerous people. And that's what we have to figure out how to do. How do we wake up the rest of the country that hasn't been paying attention and doesn't know what's happening? And those people are going to get hit the hardest because they are not going to have any time to mentally prepare for what's going to change overnight. So how do we do that? That's my big question to you guys. Think about it, study it. Let's talk about it next week when we come back on the same panel, and let's figure out if we have some ideas about how to get these random people that don't pay attention to the news involved and get them to become aware of how important their vote is. Because in Canada, as you guys know, our voter apathy is through the roof.
Yep.
Let's get them on TikTok and get them on these live debates. I think that will help engage some people.
You know what's crazy? All of these people don't want to do TikTok, but they love Facebook and Instagram. They love Meta. but they don't want to get TikTok because that's just another app added on my phone because they're not really that big into social media, right? They have social media to keep in touch with their friends and their loved ones, but they don't want to get on TikTok. I've been dealing with this for years and years and years. I've been trying to get people to come and listen to me. So it's a work in progress, but let's think about it. How can we drive them onto our platforms? How can we educate them? How can we reach out to them and have them not be freaked out that we're trying to push negativity and that we're just trying to warn them so that we don't end up back in the 1930s?
I think part of that can come from the fact that there is actually like a risk towards us from the south, right? That's one of those things that I feel like a lot of Canadians are waking up. They're paying attention because of the fact that
a lot more are.
This may actually spur more people to be looking into the election, to be looking into policies and stuff. But it's really difficult to. I have a mother who's like this. She doesn't deal with the news because the news is too depressing and it stresses her out, and so she relies on me to tell her everything, which is great because I can just push all of my leftist stuff on her. But
yeah. Well, this is what I want us to have in mind so that next week when we come back, all of us can have our little notes, we can have our ideas, and then we can actually discuss it, because that's how we move forward and unite and actually take some action, is by figuring things out and then creating an actual plan. So I love the idea. Keep everything in mind. How do we bring more attention to what's going on down south, whatever it may be, but let's bring it back here next week and talk about it in detail and come up with an actionable plan. What do you guys think?
Love it.
So you host this
every
week on Thursdays? Every
Thursday. Every Thursday.
We're actually, Eric, we're Monday. Beaver Politics is on Monday to Friday, and each day has kind of a different theme and a different host. Thursday nights are kind of an open discourse like we had tonight. So, but Beaver Politics is Monday to Friday, guys.
Okay, great.
Yep. And just to close out, so that everybody that's listening, if you want to join any of our other shows, on Monday nights we talk about Indigenous matters. On Tuesday nights we do a 1-hour news show in where I just basically catch everybody up on what's been going on, what I think the highlights are. I go by some of the comments in the chat and we just talk. I don't let anybody up. It's just it's literally like a little news show, but more chilled out than mainstream media. Wednesday, we have Generation Next. It's gonna be Progressive Moose, I think, on Wednesdays, right, Radical?
Yep.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about progressive issues, humanity, culture, figuring out ways to connect to the youth, all kinds of good stuff. And then Thursday we have open panel, and then tomorrow night that's when we have actual debates, so Polititalk it's called, and that's when we actually do try to have some respectful debates with opposition.
And then Maple Mines on Tuesday at 1.
Nice plug, I love it. Yes. Yeah, check out Polly's account. If you're not following her, go ahead and give her a follow. She's absolutely amazing, really good content, and good opportunity for getting onto more lives so that we can all talk to each other and figure stuff out before it's too late.
Spriggan King X, I see your note there. Like I said, we're here. We start our pre-show at 5. That would be 4:30 Pacific at 5:30 Mountain Time. So if you want to get involved in the show, tune into the pre-show and send us a quick note that you'd like to be on the show.
Yep. Yeah, the only reason we're not bringing people up right now is because we're just coming to an end. But we'll see you. We'll see you guys tomorrow and next week, and hopefully every evening as much as you can give your time to us.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Good night.
Much love. Much love.